women within Islam. I always felt hypocritical about wearing makeup, even if I had a bit of hair coming out, you know, maybe even just kind of rolling up my sleeves and showing a bit of arm, because actually the Prophet apparently had said it should be your wrists, and some Muslims believe that your hands should be covered because actually your hand count as a beautiful thing, your feet count as a beautiful thing. You know, there's so many aspects of what is beautiful about a woman that actually these women that are kind of, you know, saying, no, we're feminists, we're doing this, and they're wearing makeup and stuff, that could be counted as beautiful. In reality, the stricter Muslims are actually doing that whole theory justice and doing that compulsory action justice, where they say actually perfume is something that's beautiful and that can attract men. You know, you have to wear black, which is why you see them in a burqa. Actually, colours can attract your eye as well. And actually, a lot of people will go into the argument that your face is beautiful, therefore you cover your face completely and wear niqab. The point is, you actually contradict yourself believing that. It's immediately sexualizing that woman as you are attractive, you need to cover that up. You know, men are supposed to lower their gaze, is what women always fight back with. Well, men are supposed to lower their gaze, it's on them as well. But there's so much more emphasis on the woman being the person that can drag you in. And her beauty can pull you in, almost like it's evil.
Basically have a man like putty in her hands.
There's even an ayah in the Quran in Surah Yusuf about how these women have these tricks, you know, these plotting women, surely their tricks are great and indeed. You've got to cover them up, you know, otherwise they'll just blind poor men who just can't handle it.
If someone tells me I look at a woman and nothing happens to him, then he requires a psychiatrist.
And yet, if you look at the West, and I spoke about this in my hijab story, which I'll link below if you haven't seen it, there are nudist beaches. There are women with barely any clothes on, which is, you know, they should be allowed to do that. If you're allowed to cover, they should be allowed to wear whatever they want. But the reality is, the West is so much safer and they're wearing less clothes in comparison to a Muslim country where you're probably more covered up, where there's more Muslims. The men are much more dangerous and are like these crazy animals that have like almost been locked up in cages and can't handle seeing like an ankle. I honestly believe hijab has a massive part to play in that. And actually it sexualizes the women so much more that that becomes oppressive. The sexualization of women is even proved further by the sex slaves, which I know people really love to brush over and just blame it on context. There is no good excuse for a man to take in a woman as a servant and sleep with them. And as the Quran says, possess them. It uses the word of possession. How much more degrading can you get? Or even just the 72 virgins that are mentioned to be in heaven. Even that is so degrading to think of and so disgusting to think of that, oh my god, you guys, you're going to be promised 72 virgin women. Also, throughout the Quran, you'll see that more often than not, men are mentioned before women. So, you know, mu'mineen al-mu'minat, you know, basically the Muslim men, the Muslim women, you know, that is the kind of custom throughout the Quran. However, when it talks about zina, which is fornication, which is sex, you will see that actually the women are mentioned first. And, you know, scholars have said the reason women are mentioned first is because they are obviously the kind of beautiful, beautifying ones that can entrap men, and more often than not are the reason behind zina. Throughout the Islamic scriptures as well, so Hadith and Quran, you will see the way that women are spoken about in comparison to men. There is inequality in that. There's even a Hadith that says women are religiously deficient and intellectually deficient. Their intellectual deficiency is said to be the reason why there has to be 2 witnesses of women to 1 man witness. And their religious deficiency is due to them being on their menstrual cycle. So, for example, on their menstrual cycle, they can't pray or fast. The Prophet also said, actually, there's going to be more women in hell. And they were asked, well, why are there going to be more women in hell? And he said, because they're ungrateful. And I just women are talked about and the words that are used are almost like women are children, which comes to my next point of hitting women. This is like the pinnacle of oppression, pretty much. You know, it doesn't matter what Muslims say, they'll say, you know, it's not supposed to be that hard, you're not supposed to hit them that hard. So basically there are steps if a man is upset with his wife. So he first of all needs to counsel her and speak to her. If that doesn't work, he should leave her bed, basically stop having sex with her. If that doesn't work, then be hard and it's got to be in these circumstances. Of course there are people that are going to abuse this ayah. Of course there are. Would a God really not know that people are going to take that ayah and run with it and hit their wives to the point where they're black and blue and say, well, Allah said I could and you're being really naughty? And even if that was acceptable, why is it only one way? Why is it that the man should do that to their wife and the wife not do that to their husband? But this idea of Islam being a feminist religion isn't the case at all. At the end of the day, the man is in control. Men get more of an inheritance than women. If a man chooses to marry a Christian or a Jewish woman, people of the book also, he's able to, and that's because men are in control of the household. Much more than a woman. A woman is not supposed to be in control, which is why she can only marry a Muslim man. So I think the oppression comes in with the kind of slut-shaming way of thinking. I'm not saying that that's exactly what they do, but it's that way of thinking that if you don't wear the hijab, if you don't cover up, then you're kind of asking for it. Women are beautiful and are sexual beings, and they're also very smart and intelligent, and we're many things. We don't have to be one or the other. You know, this concept of kind of covering your beauty, which just seems totally pointless and silly, limiting women to the point where they've got to hide their beauty, you know, hide who and you can still be hot with a hijab on. Someone looking at you and saying, oh, she's got a nice body, so what? The fact that the men in Muslim countries are way more animalistic and dangerous when it comes to women